Well, I sort of got called out, I guess, by a man named Jarbo. What a weird name that is. Anyways, I'm all for being called out by someone. I'm all for a conversation happening. You know that. I talk about this all the time. But who is Matt Jarbo? And that's a question that I've been trying to figure out. What is his deal? Like, what does he stand for? Because a lot of what he says is a little confusing. Now, I want to bring this up here because this is what all of it kind of stems from. I've been posting this, in particular, this graph here that I got from Statista.com. And this graph here is really, really interesting because this shows the ebbs and flows of the comic book movie genre since 2020, or not 2020, 2000, 2000. And you see the ups and downs that it's gone through. And I've been utilizing this graph specifically to explain what's been going on over the last number of years and how the comic book movie genre has kind of fallen off quite a bit. And it was on a little bit of a rise last year, but the medium is like $450 million. And we're even seeing that with the latest movie in Captain America Brave New World, where it's barely going to hit $400 million, and it would be lucky to hit that 450. It might, but maybe not. So when we're starting to talk about these summer movies that are coming out, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Superman, we're talking about, like, what is this number going to be? And I specifically put in my post, superhero movies have been struggling as of late. The latest Captain America may not even hit the medium, which is around $450 million box office. I do believe Superman will be a breath of fresh air that can boost the genre past this and set the tone for the future of the genre once again. Now, why do I say that? Well, I say that because James Gunn, the way he has talked about how they need to reinvigorate the superhero genre and how they have to change things of how it's been. He's talked about that. He's talked about how he knows they can't do the same thing, the same formula that Marvel has been using. They can't do what DC had been doing. They have to change things up. So I think that this movie could be the catalyst in which starts pushing it in that direction. Does that mean this movie is going to be $1 billion? No, that doesn't mean that. Does that mean this movie is going to be just a $600 million movie? It could. Does it mean it could be an $800 million movie? Yes, it could mean that. That's where I'm leaning more towards 700 million, somewhere around that, between 700, maybe 800. 700 million is where I'm comfortable saying. But that's my thought. That's my thought process in all of this. And I know there's a lot of naysayers. I know there's a lot of people out there who say otherwise. Well, Matt Jarbo, he goes, and this was not me even say, like, I did not post this on anything of his. I have not made any comments about Matt Jarbo at all. So the fact that he took my post, reposted it, and said this was kind of shocking to me. But it was kind of a welcomed one, if you ask me. He goes, bro, Superman is barely going to make that more than Captain America. No one cares about him theatrically. And now we get to it. Because he has this weird point of view when it comes to Superman. Very strange point of view. His point of view is, DC needs Superman to be a success. Too bad they didn't start with Batman. Well, what does that mean? Well, what he's talking about specifically, and this is a really, really long post, but what he talks about is, from 89 to 2006, we didn't have a Superman movie. Superman Returns finally arrived and people crapped on it. The film pulled in just $391 million worldwide, only slightly more than Batman Begins the year before, which made $375 million. Stop there for a second. Superman Returns didn't do well because it wasn't a very good movie in general. Let's not forget that. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a really fun film. But there was no punchy. There was no action. It was a Superman movie where he fought an island, essentially. But it has one of the best Superman sequences ever with the plane. It has some great moments, Superman moments in it. But it didn't have... It didn't give people that Superman feel that they wanted in 2006. But here's the crazy thing. 391 million worldwide in 2006 for a superhero film isn't terrible. You go back and take a look. 2005, 2000, 2007, 2005, we were missing a few years here, but this is where we're at. That was about the medium for superhero films. So let's not sit there and act like, oh, wait, no, here we go, 2006. Oh, that was 2008. I'm sorry, 2010, or 210 million. So 2006, 2005, that was well over the medium for superhero films then. Right there. I mean, it was up there. So it did better than the medium. It wasn't massively successful, but it did well. He's making it act like it was some massive failure, but it wasn't. Again, it wasn't what everybody wanted, but he says 4 years later, The Dark Knight came out and made $1 billion. You're right. But let's also not forget the reason for that. Heath Ledger. I truly believe that The Dark Knight would not have made $1 billion if not for Heath Ledger. It's that simple. It's a good movie, but is it that good of a movie? Is it a $1 billion good movie? Then came Man of Steel, which grossed 671 million worldwide. Okay, so let's take a look at that number. Let's go back to this here. So that's 2013. Here we go, 2013. So 600 million is the medium then. 670. So it made over, but not a lot. Not a lot. So it did well. The thing with Man of Steel is, much like Superman Returns, it was not the right story at the right time. Again, you take a look at what was going on in the genre at the time. That is not what people were looking for. Unfortunately, I think it's a masterpiece, but it's not what people were looking for. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. It was a different time. People, unfortunately, the larger audience was looking for what Marvel was dishing out. And I didn't want DC to give us what Marvel was dishing out. I don't. But the larger audience wanted that. And that's why it only made $671 million. It had nothing to do with it because it's Superman. It had everything to do with the story. Okay? So he goes, the point is, Batman is DC's moneymaker. He's grounded, relatable, and still taps into the mystical side of the universe. If you're building a cinematic universe, Batman is the foundation you start with. Yes, Batman has been at the forefront since 1989. You had Batman 89 under Tim Burton and Batman Returns. But then you had that little time period. He totally glances over all of that. Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, they were not very well received. It was all about the toys. It was all about the merchandise. Merchandising. It was all about the merchandise there. Then it was just about animation. Batman the Animated Series and the Justice League and stuff like that since then until Batman Begins and everything. So I get what he's trying to say here, but you take a look at the story. Again, why was Batman Begins moderately successful compared to The Dark Knight? Well, Batman Begins was a better movie than The Dark Knight. Hands down. It is a better movie, better story, better action. Everything about Batman Begins is better than The Dark Knight, with the exception of Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger raises The Dark Knight up because it's Heath Ledger. Plain and simple. But is it $1 billion better? His death truly helped catapult that movie to $1 billion. The Dark Knight Rises was another $1 billion movie. But it was the final in a trilogy. People wanted to see how they wrapped up everything when it came to that trilogy and such. So I get why that was $1 billion, but it was also the movies. Avengers came out that year, another $1 billion movie. Things were starting to ramp up for that genre. So let's not take a look and just look at things on the surface. And that's what I try to tell everyone all the time when I sit here and talk about movies, when I talk about things. It's not just looking at the surface, it's looking deeper at what was going on around these movies, what's going on around the genre in the theaters in Hollywood at the time, what's going on with the actors, what happened that caused these movies to be successful or unsuccessful. He's not doing that. So, he says that's why this new Superman movie has to knock it out of the park. But everything about it so far makes it seem like it's a glorified cameo fest designed to establish a world rather than a more movie focused on Clark Kent and Superman. If that's the case, it may not land the way people want it to. Okay. We've seen a 2-minute long trailer. Teaser trailer. 2 minutes and 20 seconds long. Most of which was title cards saying, coming this July, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't even images of the movie. Then most of the images in that teaser were of Superman, Krypto, a kaiju beast, and him and his father. A few scenes with Clark and Lois. There were a couple scenes where we saw Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl. Very few scenes. All in all, we saw supporting characters maybe for 15 seconds total in a 2-minute long trailer. But according to him, everything we've seen, this movie is a cameo fest. Okay. And this is where you start to sit back and you realize that people don't understand how marketing works. The reason that this teaser trailer was done the way it was done was, one, you had to establish that this is a new world different from the DCEU. You had to make sure that people who were not aware that there is a new universe, that this is a new universe. You have new characters, different characters, and a new Superman. So you established new Superman, so you had that shot of Superman. You had to have multiple shots of Superman, different suit, different face. You had to do that. A different Lois Lane, a new Lex Luthor, and different heroes within the universe. You had to show that in a teaser to establish that this is a new universe. Full stop. You had to do that. I get it. That makes sense. But people who sit there and act like they know what they're talking about, who says, like Matt Jarbo here, who tries to say, well, I have worked in movie theaters for 14 years, and I even worked in LA. Dude, I don't care where you've worked. I don't care if you worked in movie theaters. You obviously don't understand what the hell you're talking about. Like, I worked in movie rental places, and I never worked in LA, but I understand this stuff way more than you do. I've been following this stuff for more than 20 years because this is my passion. I love this kind of stuff, and I understand it way better than you do. So he then sits here and says, I genuinely wish this movie the best, but it's facing stiff competition. Jurassic World opens that holiday weekend before it, and regardless of quality, those movies have all crossed $1 billion. Then, at the end of the month, you've got Fantastic Four, which is riding the hype of the MCU. All right, so let's take a look at that real quick. The Jurassic World, first off, the first one, Jurassic World back in, 2017, 2016, whenever it was, made like 1.3. The second one made 1.1, and then the other one barely made it over. The third one barely made it over $1 billion. Each one made less and less and less because they weren't good. And that was with Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt, two bigger names than Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali. I don't care what you say. Those two names, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, are bigger household names than Mahershala Ali and Scarlett Johansson. I know who they are. But if I were to go ask my mother or somebody down the street and show them pictures and say, who are these people? They're going to know Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard before they know Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali. Easily. So that right there just tells me, okay, this movie doesn't have the star power, number one. Number two, people may, I'm saying may, be tired of Jurassic World. That doesn't mean that this movie isn't going to do well. That doesn't mean this movie is going to make $1 billion, because I think it could make $1 billion. I'm just saying, maybe not. Now, number two, number three, whatever, I don't know what I'm on. Fantastic Four. He says the hype of the MCU. I've been talking about this for weeks and months. There is an issue with Marvel right now. We're seeing things just not panning out for Marvel. When it comes to the movies just doing poorly and poorly and poorly. The TV shows doing poorly and poorly and poorly. People are not excited about Marvel. Sure, he says that RDJ is going to be in Fantastic Four. What does that matter? Just because you're going to have a cameo in a movie doesn't mean that movie's going to be successful. See, Black Adam and Henry Cavill. It doesn't mean the movie's going to be successful. All right? Sure, people may show up to possibly see RDJ in the movie, but what if he shows up for a minute at the very end? That word's going to get out and people aren't going to go see it. People are going to be upset. If the movie isn't, if it isn't that good, if it doesn't live up, people aren't going to go see it. If it has the same issues that, say, Captain America has, people aren't going to go see it. If it has issues like Daredevil has, people aren't going to go see it. And that is the problem. There isn't Marvel hype like you think, Matt Jarbo. There isn't. Sure, there's more confidence in Marvel than there is DC right now, but not much. Not much. That leads me to my final point, which is the lack of confidence in DC, which that was why the teaser trailer was so important, to showcase this is a new universe. You showcase a new universe to let people know that old stuff, that's not us anymore. This is new. And the new marketing, all the marketing that's going to start ramping up here in the next few weeks is going to highlight that even more. People need to realize that you sit there and you want to talk about and act like you know what you're talking about and say things like this. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you sit there and you want to say, I hope that the movie does well, but all you do is talk negatively about it and spew things that don't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I literally poked a hole in every little thing that you said. Logically, it's not even like it. You sit there and try to tell me you're just going off vibes, Slav. Well, I'm not going off vibes. I have statistics to prove where the medium is. So anything really over 450 in 2025 is technically a success. First of all, let's go with that. I then have had other things, I don't have it pulled up, showing that the fans are excited about this movie. I have shown that. It's on slavsfreetalk.com. You can go there, you can find it. I've shown that. You can see that the tea leaves are pointing to Superman being a success. The question is, how big of a success? Is it 600? Is it 700? Is it $1 billion? Is it 500? Is it 550? Is it 650? That's the question right now. And we got to see where the marketing goes. Jurassic World and Fantastic Four, there's no hype around them right now. There's very little hype around them, if any. And that's the big difference. There's an uphill battle for them at this point in time. Their marketing hasn't even started. There's hype around Superman right now. So once their marketing gets started, they're already behind. They have to play catch up. But when it comes to Superman, they're already ahead. And that's the big difference. So Matt, I know you offered, hey, come on a live stream. I want to talk. I'm always for it. Unfortunately, my internet was out the other day when you were doing a show. Hopefully, we can make it work out, and I'd love to talk to you more about it. But everybody else, I'd love to hear what you have to think about this, and let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. So close to 2,000 subscribers. I'd love to hit that before the end of March. But with all that said, guys, let me know what you think about all this. Love to hear what you have to think. With all that said, I'll catch you all later.